Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. It was supposed to be the perfect evening, our 10th wedding anniversary. I had left work early, something I rarely did, to make sure everything was perfect. I'd cooked Jessica's favorite dinner, roasted salmon with lemon butter, paired with the wine we had on our honeymoon in Napa. I even lit candles and put on the playlist we danced to on our wedding night. She wasn't home yet, but I figured she was caught in traffic or tied up at work. No big deal. I could wait. An hour passed, then another. The candles melted down to stubs. My texts went unanswered, so I called her. It rang twice before she picked up. "Hey," Jessica said, her voice rushed. "I'm stuck at work. Big project. I'll be home soon." "Are you okay? You sound—" I hesitated, unsure how to put it. "Distracted." "Just tired, Matt," she said. "We'll talk when I get home." When she finally walked through the door, her reaction wasn't what I'd hoped for. She looked at the table, saw the effort I'd put in, and blinked like she'd forgotten what day it was. "Oh no. Matt, I'm so sorry," she said, dropping her bag on the counter. "I completely forgot it was today." "It's okay," I lied, though I felt the sting. "We can celebrate now." But she shook her head. "I'm exhausted. Let's do something tomorrow, okay?" I swallowed my disappointment and nodded. "Sure." I sat on the couch, feeling let down, and booked a table at our favorite restaurant for tomorrow night. We'd shared so many good memories there, and I thought it would be the perfect way to make up for the missed evening. That night we sat across from each other at the cozy corner table. The atmosphere was just right, with soft jazz playing in the background and the smell of garlic and fresh bread wafting through the air. Jessica looked more relaxed than she had in days, smiling softly as we looked over the menu. We placed our orders, and while we waited, Jessica excused herself to the bathroom. I stayed at the table, lost in thought, drumming my fingers on the surface. The waiter came over with the bottle of wine we'd ordered. "That's an excellent choice," he remarked. "Yeah," I replied. "Tonight's a special occasion. We're celebrating our 10th wedding anniversary. Well, technically it was yesterday, but my wife had to work late." The waiter's expression shifted, subtle but unmistakable. His brows furrowed for just a second, and he seemed like he wanted to say something but wasn't sure if he should. I noticed. "Is something wrong?" He hesitated, then leaned slightly closer, lowering his voice. "I don't mean to intrude, but wasn't your wife here yesterday?" My stomach sank. "What do you mean?" "I'm pretty sure she was here," he said, "with another man. They were sitting right over there." He nodded toward a small table by the window. "Are you sure it was her?" I asked, my voice tightening. "Yes," the waiter said firmly. "She was here around 6 and left just after 7. I remember because they asked for the check quickly." "7?" I repeated, my mind racing. "You're sure they left at 7? "Yes," he said, looking uneasy now. I'm sorry if I made a mistake." I shook my head, forcing a tight smile. "No, thanks for letting me know." Jessica had gotten home at 9 last night. If she'd left the restaurant at 7, where had she been for the 2 hours in between? When she returned to the table a minute later, I forced myself to act normal. "Sorry about that," she said, sitting down and reaching for her water. "No problem," I replied, keeping my tone casual. "So, how was work yesterday? You mentioned it was a long day." She nodded quickly. "Yeah, the new project is taking up a lot of time. Late nights, you know how it is." I tilted my head slightly, trying to sound curious rather than accusatory. "Must have been rough. You said you didn't leave the office until what, 9? She blinked, caught off guard by the question. Yeah, around 9. Why?" "Nothing. Maybe I should complain to your boss for keeping you so late," I said with a playful smile, trying to make it sound like a joke. She gave me a nervous smile in return, but I noticed her shifting in her seat, clearly uncomfortable. My gut told me she was hiding something, and the waiter's words echoed in my head. When we got home, the atmosphere between us felt off, at least to me. As soon as we walked through the door, Jessica let out a heavy sigh. "I'm so tired," she muttered, not even glancing at me, and went straight to the bedroom. I knew she was just using it as an excuse to avoid intimacy, so I stood in the doorway watching her. As she pulled her hair into a loose bun and grabbed her pajamas, I spoke up. "I thought we could do something tonight. You know, it's our anniversary." Jessica paused, her back still to me. Yeah, I know, she said softly. Then she turned around, her face weary. I'm just really tired, Matt. Can we… maybe tomorrow? Yeah, sure, I said, forcing a smile. She gave me a quick peck on the cheek and slid into bed, pulling the blanket up to her chin. Within minutes, she was pretending to sleep, or maybe she really was that tired. But I couldn't sleep. Not with everything running through my head. The waiter's revelation, the unexplained 2-hour gap from last night, her growing distance, the lack of intimacy lately, and especially on the night of our anniversary. Something wasn't adding up, and deep down I already knew the truth. I was determined to figure out what was going on. After she finally fell asleep, her soft, steady breaths filling the room, I picked up her phone from the nightstand. My hands trembled as I unlocked it. Thankfully, I knew her passcode. At first, everything seemed normal. There were messages from her friends, quick exchanges with coworkers, and even a couple of texts to me that now felt hollow. I almost put the phone down, thinking I'd overreacted. But then I saw them. Messages with her boss. The name Greg stood out like a flashing red light. I opened the thread, and my stomach dropped. The texts were intimate, far beyond anything professional. Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you, Greg wrote. Me too. I wish we didn't have to sneak around, but it's worth it for us, Jessica replied. You're the best part of my day, Jessica, Greg added. Same here. I look forward to meeting you every time, she responded. My heart pounded as I scrolled further, each message cutting deeper than the last. Flirty exchanges, intimate plans, and even photos they had sent to each other. Then I saw it. A text that made my blood run cold. Can't believe we've been doing this for 6 months already, Greg wrote. I know. Every moment has been worth it. You make me so happy, she replied. 6 months. 6 months of lies, deception, and betrayal. My hands tightened around the phone as I stared at the messages, my chest heaving with a mix of rage and heartbreak. The meaning was painfully clear. Jessica had been having an affair with her boss, right under my nose, for half a year. I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. But the proof was right there in my hands. That night, sleep was impossible. I tossed and turned, my mind replaying the messages over and over again. The shock of it all left me awake, staring at the ceiling, struggling to come to terms with what I had just uncovered. I couldn't shake the image of Jessica's words, her affection for Greg, the intimacy that wasn't meant for me. The lies were suffocating. The next morning, as Jessica got ready for work, she casually mentioned, I'll be staying late at the office again today. Big project, you know how it is. I wasn't buying it, not after everything I'd found out. She thought she could keep lying, but now I had to know the truth. I decided to follow her. I drove to her office building and waited for her to finish her shift, trying to stay calm. The hours dragged on, each minute adding to the tension building inside me. Finally, I saw her. Jessica walked out of the building, her face glowing, but she wasn't alone. Greg, her boss, was walking beside her. They stopped in the parking lot, and my heart sank when I saw them kiss, a long, lingering kiss that left no doubt in my mind. They were a couple. Then they got into Greg's car and I followed closely behind, my heart racing. I trailed them all the way to his house. When they arrived, they didn't even bother to hide it. They got out of the car, hugging and kissing as they made their way inside. I quickly pulled out my phone and snapped a few pictures, my stomach churning with each click of the camera. This was the proof I needed. I had caught her, and now there was no denying it. But I couldn't hold it any longer. The anger, the betrayal, it was all too much. I slammed the car door shut and stormed up to Greg's front door. My fists were clenched in fury, and without thinking I knocked hard on the door. When he opened it, I didn't give him a chance to say anything. I punched him straight in the face, the impact satisfying for a split second before the rush of emotions hit me all at once. Without waiting for him to react, I stormed past him and into the house. Greg stumbled back, holding his nose, but I didn't care. Inside, I found Jessica standing in the living room. Her eyes widened when she saw me, her face draining of color. She froze in place. Matt, what are you… Don't, I snapped, my voice shaking with rage. I know everything. I saw it all. You and him, 6 months. You lied to me for 6 months, Jessica. 6 months. Her face twisted with guilt, her eyes betraying the truth. but it didn't make any of this easier to swallow. Greg tried to step forward, his voice hesitant. "Hey man, I think you—" "Stay out of this," I growled, my eyes locked on Jessica. "Matt, please, can we talk?" she said quietly, almost pleading. But I was done talking. "Talk? Talk about what? That you've been sneaking around behind my back with your boss for 6 months? That you missed our 10th anniversary because you were screwing him?" I was yelling now, the words tumbling out faster than I could think. She dropped her gaze to the floor, unable to meet my eyes. "I never wanted to hurt you." I shook my head in disbelief. "You already did." I stood there for a moment longer, staring at both of them. Neither said a word. They couldn't even look at me. The weight of it all settled in, heavy and suffocating. "I can't forgive you for this, Jessica. It's over." "Matt, please, I'm sorry," she said, her voice breaking. "I love you. I don't want to lose you." "I'm filing for divorce," I said, my voice cold and final. "We're done." I didn't look back as I slammed the door behind me. I left them there, tangled in their lies, and drove back home, my heart heavy with the reality that my marriage had crumbled right before my eyes. When I stepped through the door, the emptiness of the house hit me harder than ever. Without wasting time, I grabbed a suitcase and started packing. Clothes, toiletries, a few essentials, enough to last me a while. Jessica kept calling me, her name lighting up my phone screen over and over again, but I didn't answer. I couldn't. Not now. As I zipped up the suitcase and turned to leave, my eyes fell on the framed marriage certificate hanging on the wall. I froze, staring at the document that once symbolized our love and commitment. A bitter laugh escaped me, followed by a surge of anger. I pulled it off the wall, holding it in my hands for a moment. Then, in one swift motion, I tore it in half, the sound of ripping paper echoing through the living room. I let the pieces fall to the floor, leaving them there as I walked out the door, shutting it behind me for what I knew would be the last time. Then, I got into my car and drove to a hotel downtown. When I finally arrived, the quiet room offered little comfort. It felt cold and impersonal, but it was a space where I could think clearly, away from the house that now held nothing but painful memories. The next morning, I made my first stop at a lawyer's office. Sitting in that chair, detailing everything that had happened, felt surreal. But I was determined to end this marriage. Jessica's betrayal left no room for reconciliation. I wasn't going to let Greg walk away unscathed either. What he did wasn't just immoral, it was unethical. With my lawyer's help, I filed a lawsuit against him for interference in my marriage, dragging his name through the legal system just as he'd dragged my life through the mud. The pressure was too much for him, and eventually, Greg quit. Word spread quickly at Jessica's company about the affair, especially after I provided the HR department with the pictures of her and Greg kissing in the parking lot. The scandal rocked the office, and Jessica became the subject of endless gossip and judgment. She tried to tough it out at first, but the whispers and stares proved too much for her. Eventually, she quit too. But I wasn't done yet. I sent those pictures to her parents and our mutual friends too. They deserved to see who she really was, the lies she told, and the life she destroyed. It wasn't about revenge, it was about truth. Months passed, and the divorce was finalized. Jessica got the house, a decision that stung but didn't surprise me. I didn't fight it. Instead, I moved to an apartment in a new city, determined to start fresh. It was a modest place, but it was mine, and it symbolized a new chapter in my life. Through mutual acquaintances, I learned that Jessica and Greg ended up together for a while. But 9 months later, their relationship fell apart. She cheated on him, just as she had with me. One evening, I got a message from her. "I've been thinking a lot about us, Matt. I made a terrible mistake. You were the best husband I could have asked for, and I'm so sorry for everything. I wish we could try again," she wrote. I stared at the message for a moment, a mix of emotions bubbling inside me. Anger, pity, and the faintest trace of satisfaction. But there was no going back. I deleted it without responding and blocked her number. Life moved on. I found peace in my new city, meeting new people and slowly building a life for myself. The pain of betrayal didn't disappear overnight, but day by day it grew quieter. Jessica became a distant memory, a cautionary tale of what I would never let happen again. As for me, I was finally free, ready to embrace the future, on my own terms. Thank you for watching.